But only to prove his friend wrong. To test the theory, he designed a clever system with 12 cameras lined up along a horse track. Each camera was connected to a tripwire that would trigger as the horse ran past, capturing each moment. Afterward, Muybridge invented a way to display the pictures in rapid sequence, making it appear as though the horse was in motion. The result? Muybridge had unintentionally created the world's first moving picture. And to his surprise, his friend was right. Horses do indeed lift all 4 hooves off the ground for a brief moment while galloping. Through this experiment, Muybridge not only proved the theory, but also forever changed how we record and understand motion, paving the way for the future of film and photography. Moving down to Russia, a teenager claimed to possess a gift that defied logic, seeing through people. Number 12. Natasha Demkina. At 17 years old, Natasha Demkina, a young girl from Saransk, Russia, claimed to have an extraordinary gift, X-ray vision. She believed her ability allowed her to peer inside the human body and make medical diagnoses, working alongside doctors to identify health issues. Her story quickly spread across Russia, where she became widely known as the girl with X-ray eyes. This unusual talent captured the attention of the scientific community, sparking curiosity and skepticism in equal measure. Scientists and medical experts decided to investigate Natasha's abilities to determine whether her claims were genuine or just an illusion. Many suspected that she was using a method called cold reading, a technique often employed by psychics and fortune tellers. This involves making vague statements and then interpreting the responses to make it appear as if the predictions are accurate. To test her, a controlled experiment was set up to eliminate the possibility of cold reading. 6 volunteers, each with a different medical condition that could be clearly seen on an X-ray, took part in the test. Along with them was one healthy person who had no visible medical issues. Natasha was given detailed descriptions of the patient's conditions in both English and Russian, as well as anatomical illustrations to ensure accuracy. The test was designed to see if she could match the conditions to the right individuals based on her X-ray vision. Surprisingly, Natasha correctly matched only 4 of the medical conditions, falling short of the required 5 to pass the test. Despite not meeting the expectations, her abilities continued to fascinate the public. Natasha's story was told in a documentary called The Girl with X-Ray Eyes, which aired on the Discovery Channel in Europe and Asia, bringing her and her unusual claim to a wider audience. Her mysterious talent, though unproven, still left many questioning the boundaries of human abilities. Moving on from the girl with X-ray vision, the next story shows one whose brain injury turned him into Pablo Picasso. Number 11. Alonzo Clemons. When Alonzo Clemons was a young boy, people didn't think he was very smart. But even at a young age, he had a gift that set him apart. He could make amazing sculptures. At just 3 years old, Alonzo suffered a serious brain injury that left him with significant mental challenges. His IQ dropped to around 45, but instead of holding him back, the injury seemed to unlock something extraordinary in him. His mother noticed his talent early. Alonzo could shape clay with incredible detail and accuracy, even as a child. His sculptures came to life effortlessly, almost like magic. Still, his mother worried about his future. She wondered if people would accept him or his art because of his intellectual struggles. But Alonzo wasn't the type to let doubt stop him. Over time, he gained recognition as an artist. He became especially famous for his life-sized sculptures of horses. What amazed people the most was how quickly he worked. Alonzo didn't need to spend hours studying his subjects. A brief glance at a picture was all it took for him to recreate it as a detailed 3-dimensional sculpture, often in less than an hour. He could even sculpt perfectly in complete darkness. Today, Alonzo's sculptures are highly valued. Some of his pieces have sold for as much as $45,000. His remarkable story was featured in the documentary Beautiful Minds, a voyage into the brain which explores the hidden potential of the human mind. Art seems to be the order of the day, as this next story takes it to another level. Number 10. Ken Walters. Ken Walters has a story like no other. Back in 1986, life was simple for him. He worked as an engineer, living an ordinary life. But everything changed when a terrible accident turned his world upside down. At just 30 years old, a runaway forklift crushed him against a wall. The impact broke his spine in several places, leaving him paralyzed. The medical bills piled up, draining his savings. As if that wasn't hard enough, the stress from his situation triggered 2 strokes. The second one, in 2005, brought an unexpected surprise. While recovering in the hospital, Ken started doodling on a small notepad. It was a way to communicate, but something unusual happened. Ken, who had never shown any interest in art, found himself drawing constantly. Doctors explained that strokes sometimes rewire the brain, revealing hidden talents. They warned him, though, that these changes often don't last. But Ken was not like most people. When he returned home, his interest in art didn't fade. In fact, it grew stronger. He switched to digital tools and started creating artwork on his computer. What came next amazed everyone. Ken's digital art was stunning. It quickly gained attention from all kinds of people. Today, his work is displayed in office buildings, top art galleries, and even online virtual spaces. Ken's life took a turn no one could have predicted, but he turned it into something truly remarkable. Moving on from art, this next story shows one who developed impressive math skills after battling a life-threatening disease. Number 9. Daniel Tammet. Daniel Tammet's life is nothing short of amazing. When he was a toddler, he had severe epileptic seizures that changed how his brain worked forever. These early challenges didn't hold him back. Instead, they shaped him into one of the most unique people in the world. Daniel is an autistic savant, showing just how incredible the human brain can be. He has taught himself to speak 11 languages fluently, including Icelandic, a language he mastered in just 7 days. His talent with numbers is just as impressive. Daniel can solve tough math problems in his head and has memorized the number pi to 22,514th digits. But what truly sets him apart is how he experiences numbers. Daniel has a rare condition called synesthesia. This means numbers are not just symbols to him, they come to life. For Daniel, every number up to 10,000 has its own color, shape, texture, and even movement. For instance, he sees 117 as a handsome shape, while the number 9 feels big and intimidating. When Daniel multiplies numbers, he doesn't calculate like most people. Instead, he sees patterns form in his mind, and these patterns give him the answer instantly. This allows him to solve math problems quickly and effortlessly. To Daniel, numbers are not just ideas, they are real, vivid experiences that make his world extraordinary. As we continue, the next story reveals the many challenges and discoveries that come with recovering from a coma. Number 8. Tommy McHugh. Tommy McHugh's life changed in a way no one could have predicted. It all began when 2 blood vessels in his brain burst, leaving him in a coma. For a week, his life hung in the balance. When he finally woke up, he wasn't the same person. Something inside him had shifted, and suddenly he had an unstoppable urge to create art. Tommy started writing poetry, but that was just the beginning. Back at home, his creativity exploded. He filled his days painting, sculpting, and carving. Nothing escaped his brush. He painted walls, ceilings, floors, and anything else he could find. He described his art as a reflection of what he felt inside his brain during the injury. Before this life-changing event, Tommy worked as a handyman, doing manual labor to get by. Art was never part of his life. In fact, his past was far from inspiring. As a young man, Tommy spent years in and out of trouble, fighting in the streets and ending up in young offender institutions. He lived recklessly, not caring much about himself or his future. After the accident, Tommy became a different person entirely. His friends were shocked by the transformation. The tough guy they knew was now speaking in rhymes, loving kittens, and searching for life's deeper meaning. Neuroscientists were just as amazed. They began studying Tommy to understand how his injury unlocked such a powerful creative drive. While we've witnessed some incredible abilities so far, this next one is truly astonishing. Here's a glimpse. Can you imagine hearing sounds and seeing colors at the same time? Number 7. Leigh Erceg. Leigh Erceg's life flipped upside down in a single moment. While working on her family's farm in rural Colorado, she fell down a 40-foot ravine, hitting her head multiple times on the way down. The accident left her with permanent spinal cord damage and severe brain trauma. When she woke up, everything she once knew was gone. Leigh couldn't remember her name, her family, or her friends. She had no memory of major events, like Barack Obama being elected president just a year earlier. 41 years of memories had disappeared, leaving her with nothing but a blank slate. It was a devastating loss, but something unexpected came out of the tragedy. Leigh began to show incredible new abilities. She suddenly had a natural talent for art, literature, dance, and even physics. She also developed synesthesia, a rare condition where she could see colors when hearing sounds and visualize physics equations as if they were floating around her. Her doctors diagnosed her with acquired savant syndrome, a condition so rare that only 32 people in the world are known to have it. Now, Leigh lives in Laguna Beach, California, in an artist community where she spends her days painting. Her artwork is unique, with a style that reminds people of Picasso. However, her life is far from easy. Her memory is still a struggle, and every morning she has to work hard to piece together what happened the day before. Number 6. Jon Sarkin. Jon Sarkin's life took a dramatic turn when he suffered a massive stroke at 35 years old. Before that, he was a chiropractor living an ordinary life. But the stroke changed everything. It left him with a new personality and an overwhelming drive to create art. During his stroke, Jon underwent surgery, and his heart stopped not once but twice. Parts of his brain, especially the left side of his cerebellum, were starved of oxygen and blood. This part of the brain controls how we process movement and sensations, so the damage deeply affected how Jon saw the world. After the stroke, everything around him felt different, almost as if he was experiencing life for the very first time. He began seeing things in a way others couldn't, and he poured this fresh perspective into his art. His paintings are filled with overlapping images, capturing the way he perceives movement and the world around him. Jon's unique style quickly gained attention. His works have been featured in major publications like the New York Times and the New Yorker. Today, his art is displayed in private galleries around the world. Despite the challenges, Jon has turned his life's unexpected twist into a powerful and inspiring journey through creativity. Before we move on, it's time for today's subscriber's pick. Take a look at this image. It's been making waves on the internet lately. People are saying it shows a Russian fisherman who went through something unbelievable. The story goes like this. His ship sank during a huge storm, and he was the only one who made it out alive. The Coast Guard finally found him after 2 months. But here's the weird part. When they rescued him, he was covered in some strange black stuff. The fisherman claimed that this black substance kept him alive through it all. What do you think about this wild tale? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Number 5. Derek Amato. Derek Amato's life changed in an instant at the age of 39. While hanging out with friends, he decided to pull off a daring move, catch a football mid-air and land smoothly in a swimming pool. But the plan went horribly wrong. He slipped and hit his head hard on the concrete edge of the pool. The accident was brutal. Derek suffered a serious concussion, bled from his ears, and slipped into a semi-coma that lasted for days. When he woke up, his world was completely different. He struggled with memory loss, constant headaches, and partial hearing loss. It seemed like everything had taken a turn for the worse. Then, something remarkable happened. One day, while visiting a friend, Derek noticed a keyboard sitting in the room. He had never played the piano before, but something drew him to it. The moment his fingers touched the keys, a melody poured out effortlessly. The music was so beautiful, it moved his friend to tears. Derek couldn't explain how he was able to play, but it felt like second nature. From that day on, Derek's life was no longer defined by the accident. It was transformed by his newfound gift. He became a professional piano player, releasing both a single and an album, all without any formal training. Moving on, one might assume that being struck by electricity would lead to certain death. But this story reveals someone who not only survived, but also gained an extraordinary ability. Number 4. Slavisa Pajkic. Slavisa Pajkic, famously known as the Battery Man, has a talent that seems straight out of a superhero story. He can handle electricity in ways that defy belief. Back in 1983, he amazed the world by surviving 20,000 volts of electricity without any harm. It was a record-breaking moment, but his abilities didn't stop there. Fast forward to 2003, and Slavisa pulled off another jaw-dropping feat. He conducted enough electricity through his body to heat a cup of water to almost 206 degrees Fahrenheit. What makes his gift even more extraordinary is the control he has over it. He decides when to let electricity flow through him, when to insulate himself, and when to store energy for later use. One of his most shocking tricks is setting alcohol-soaked cloth on fire just by touching it. Experts have spent years trying to figure out how Slavisa does what he does. One idea is that he might have a rare condition that stops him from developing sweat or salivary glands, which could make his skin work like a natural insulator. This might explain why electricity doesn't hurt him, but even this theory hasn't been proven. Despite all the studies, Slavisa's abilities remain a puzzle. While scientists search for answers, he continues to amaze the world with powers that truly seem superhuman. Forgetfulness is a natural part of being human, but this next story proves that it isn't always so. Number 3. Orlando Serrell. When Orlando Serrell was just 10 years old, a baseball game changed his life forever. While playing with his friends, a ball struck the left side of his head. It didn't seem serious at the time. There was no blood, and the pain was mild, so Orlando brushed it off and kept playing. He didn't tell his parents or anyone else about it. But soon after, things began to feel different. Orlando started having recurring headaches that came out of nowhere. At first, this seemed like the only effect of the accident, but something unusual began to happen. Slowly, he realized he could remember everything that happened to him, starting from the day of the accident. And it wasn't just big moments. He could recall tiny details, like what he ate, what time he woke up, and even the weather for every single day. As time went on, Orlando discovered another strange ability. He could instantly figure out the day of the week for any date in history. If someone asked about May 4th, 1880, he could answer without hesitation. His newfound skills amazed everyone around him. Doctors later diagnosed him with acquired savant syndrome, a rare condition where a head injury or illness unlocks extraordinary talents. In Orlando's case, the blow to his head damaged the left side of his brain, the area responsible for recognizing objects and processing memories. The injury caused new neural connections to form, giving him these incredible abilities. From someone who could recall every detail to another who gained the ability to solve the tough maths question, the stories only get more fascinating. Number 2. Jim Carallo. Back in 1988, a 14-year-old boy named Jim Carallo was in a car crash. He survived, but sadly, his mom did not. Jim ended up in a coma that lasted 6 weeks. Doctors weren't sure if he'd ever wake up, but one day, out of nowhere, he opened his eyes. When Jim went back home, people noticed he wasn't the same. He seemed different, especially when it came to math. Before the accident, he was just an average kid. Afterward, he became a whiz. He started taking tough math tests without opening a book. He could even solve problems in advanced calculus, which most kids his age wouldn't even understand. In just 2 days, he managed to memorize the first 250 digits of pi. It was like math had become second nature to him. The only downside was that Jim sometimes struggled to remember things in the short term. Other than that, his transformation was nothing short of amazing. Number 1. Tony Cicoria. In 1994, Tony Cicoria was 42 years old when something happened that changed his life forever. He was near Albany, New York, standing by a payphone after making a call. Out of the blue, lightning struck just about a foot away from him. Tony remembers looking down and seeing his own body lying on the ground, surrounded by a bluish-white glow. His heart had stopped. Luckily, a nurse who happened to be nearby rushed over and brought him back to life. He had burns on his face and left foot where the lightning had entered and left his body. For weeks after, Tony felt tired and had trouble remembering things. Worried, he saw a neurologist and went through tests like an EEG and MRI, but nothing unusual showed up. Slowly, his energy came back and his memory improved. Life seemed normal again, at least for a little while. Then, out of nowhere, something strange happened. Tony became obsessed with piano music. He had never cared about music before, but now he felt like he had to play. He went out and bought a piano, even though he had never played one in his life. Within 3 months of being struck by lightning, Tony was spending all his time playing and writing music. It was as if melodies were just appearing in his head, ready to be played. His life had taken a completely unexpected turn, all because of that lightning bolt. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.